Oh, Canada, you saucy little minx. But you have just utterly, utterly proved the point of what we were talking about consistently for years. Because Brexiteers went forward with this very bold claim who's not want to do a trade deal with the UK. Apparently, not Canada. And we warned this. We warned about this from the very beginning, what the consequences would be. Canada, very, very different sort of, regulatory regime, different standards compared to us. Very far more sort of in line with America, which, to be honest, I think this trade deal sort of would have at least predicted how the much wanted, much sought after America UK trade deal would have gone. I think that what happened with this whole Canada saga would now absolutely reflect what would have happened with the UK USA deal. Both Canada and America, very, very big, market. They trade with a lot of other countries. So why do they necessarily need to trade with us? We've always said this. The EU, far bigger, massive market. They would far rather do a trade deal with the EU than with just us. And bear in mind, we did the quote rollover deal. And we warned that at the time that this was not a trade deal. It was merely just a extension of the current trade relations until a new trade deal can be struck. And try as they might, try as Kimi Badnock might, and she might try, she has failed completely in this. Why? Because Canada was asking for what pretty much Australia got. And we warned about this, that when Australia got that deal with the beef and etc., other countries were going to ask for that exact same thing as well and be very, very, very upset when they don't get the same level of access. That, this is what trade deals are all about. It's give and take. Countries, especially in, singular sort of trade deals between two countries, will always try to look at where their own interests are going to be and seek to sort of gain on those interests or get their products into sort of another country. We've seen that played out time and time again. The Australia and New Zealand trade deals, perfect examples of two countries well and truly putting one over on the UK trade negotiators. And of course, infamously, the Australian trade deal written on the back of a piece of bog roll. If you don't believe me, go look at that video. But yes, new tariffs now are going to be coming in from, next week, the 1st of April. And this is going to cause a lot of problems for businesses that would export. We made a lot of money exporting stuff to Canada, and it wasn't through our own unique individual trade deal. It was through the deal that the EU had with Canada, the deal that they struck. And of course, Canada was not going to play ball on this. They were always going to be sort of their own sort of player in this. And now there's even questions about whether Canada might actually maybe even veto us from joining the Pacific Partnership, which would massively upset Japan. Japan themselves have been sending ambassadors to try and sort of smooth that transition in the hopes that we can sort of get us in, so that if ever China comes knocking on the door, we're just there to say no, because that's the only reason we are there. It doesn't benefit us any economically. Japan knows that. Canada knows that as well. So they are trying to sort of play this card to sort of extract more concessions from the UK in this regard. So we're going to have a look at what this actually means. But this is just a massive blow to the Brexit trade agenda that the Brexiteers laid out would be an absolute boon to the UK. But once again, in reality, is showing it's not all it was cracked up to be. So before we do get onto this, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. Down below, there are links to my Patreon page, the one-off link where you can buy me coffee. There's the YouTube thank you button, and of course, there's the Pony Club YouTube subscription down below as well, which you can join as well. And of course, don't forget to click on the like, share, and of course, subscribe if you're new to the channel. So let's crack on into this. So this comes from Politico. So UK goods now face new Canadian tariffs in latest blow to the Brexit trade agenda. So Britain's exports to Canada will now be hit with new duties next week after the two countries now failed to extend the rules to negotiate in a new post-Brexit deal. Two people familiar with the negotiations said that there will be no last-minute extension to save the British products from facing these extra tariffs at the Canadian border on Monday. This move marks the latest blow for Britain's faltering trade agenda. And oh boy, does it. But what are these tariffs? What is going to get hit by this? So, from the 1st of April, British vehicle, chemical, and food processing exports that rely on EU parts will now lose their tariff-free access to the Canadian market. That temporary right had been agreed under the UK-Canadian trade deal, which was rolled over after Brexit in 2021. Once again, reminding you, that was a rollover deal. It was not a free trade deal. It was, let's do this until we can, sort some sort of new trade deal. And of course, we haven't been able to because, well, Canada's basically seen the opportunity and said, "Yeah, we want full access to your farming market, being able to sort of export their own agricultural produce over into the UK." Which would, once again, if you combine that with just the Australian and New Zealand power that is going forward in this case, would absolutely well and truly destroy British farming on an unprecedented scale. This is why the UK actually pushed back when Canada was asking for that stuff, but Canada being very, very insistent, going, "Hey, you offered that to Australia. Why can't we get the same deal as well? Because otherwise, well, you got a lot of problems." And especially it would put a lot of British farmers out of business, because you would now just be having so much cheaper imports into this country of all types of food stuff that UK farmers would just not be able to compete. So Britain had hoped to at least swerve the cliff edge after it tried to negotiate an updated trade deal with Canada. But the British trade chief, Kimmy Badenoch, froze negotiations in late January over Canada's demands for the UK to give market access to its hormone-treated beef. Something which even Badenoch, I think, would realize if that happened, as we said, would cause huge, huge problems in all that. So, to reopen talks, Canada would need to give in to Badenoch's request to extend market access for British cheese, which would expire at the start of the year, and the right to use EU parts, two people had said. They said, "It's a shame that Canada cannot see that now, more than ever, it is vital for allies to work together to remove barriers to trade, not reinforce them," a Whitehall figure close to negotiators said. Like others, we were granted autonomy to discuss the talks very candidly. Some £700 million worth in British automotive parts will now face a 6.1% tariff, at least £3,000 per vehicle on average from the 1st of April, with over several sectors, including chemicals and processed foods, also hit. Chemical exports alone are worth more than £1 billion just last year. The UK will try and find a way through with Canada for several months, including Kimmy trying to discuss with her counterparts at the WTO back in February, a Whitehall figure said. But sadly, Canada has shown no willingness to agree an extension. And shockingly, they've got no response from the Canadians over this. Canada has been very, very clear in its in its dealings, saying, if you want access to our market, well, then we want this. And this was what we, warned Brexiteers about from the very beginning. This is how, international trade deals go. When we are out by ourselves, we don't have, the backing of the EU to back us up or anything like that. And there are countries that are going to sort of do this. They're going to sort of insist that this is what we go for. And yet we have seen this bizarre trade attitude to go after very much like former Commonwealth countries. That's why we've seen the only other two that we've sort of done are South Korea and Japan, and even those aren't very good, to be honest. I mean, the Japan deal favors far, far, far more Japanese exporters and importers than it does to the UK uh, counterparts. And we've talked about the Australian and New Zealand trade deals more than enough, but to allow access to that to those to the beef, it would just completely destroy British farming. They know that. We've seen the protests just recently complaining about eventually when Australia and those limitations, because remember, every year, those limitations on the Australian farming getting less and less and less over the next 15 years, to which would really destroy UK farming even more. Meanwhile, Canada's just gone, yeah, we want full access. If you want anything else, give us that. The idea that, of course, allies should quote work together. Not really. That's not how trade deals have traditionally even worked, going back throughout history. But there you go. um, yeah. Once again, Brexit proving its invaluable worth, of course, to the fantastic trade opportunities that were promised by the Brexiteers. But I will say this now: I think this would have exactly mirrored what would have happened with the American trade negotiations. Because obviously Canada, America, not entirely too dissimilar with each other when it comes to sort of trade and regulations. Would not be shocked. Would not be shocked at all if this is exactly how the US UK trade deals would have gone as well, had there been actual proper negotiations taking place. But there you go. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please remember to leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think. If you are from Canada, I would love to see what the Canadians are saying about this. But as always, please remember to click on the like and share button on your way out. And of course, if you are new, hit the subscribe button as well for more weird and wacky news from from the UK. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.